Mortuary, where I talk about all things horror. And today I want to continue my discussion on Battle Royale and talk about Battle Royale 2 Requiem. Quick recap on Battle Royale 1. The rules of the game is that you have 42 kids from a middle school or a high school. They are usually kids who their teacher considers them to be delinquents and offering no value to society. Their teacher will volunteer them. Next thing they know, they're going to wake up in a school on a deserted island where they have a collar around their neck that will explode if they break any of the rules. They're given weapons and they're told to kill each other because only one can survive. So in the first movie, you're introduced to Shuya and Noriko, who break the rules, and they manage to get the collars off of them. They are able to kill their sensei and escape and become wanted fugitives in the world of Battle Royale. And I said at the end of my last one that I thought it was kind of weird that they put out an APB on them where they were basically like, hey, they killed their teacher, instead of being like they were in the Battle Royale, they escaped and killed their teacher. Because it's established in the first movie that there are multiple Battle Royales that have happened on that island, and that everybody knows about it, but also the kids don't know about it. It's very weird and it makes no sense. But Battle Royale 2 does correct this, because by the time that Battle Royale 2 comes around, you are introduced to a group of kids who do know what the Battle Royale is, and they have this hatred towards adults for putting kids through those and killing them. And there is resistance that they don't want to participate in the death games because it is just giving the adults what they want. And the adults are really like, they're just killing them at this point. Like there's nothing that they're trying to gain societally. It's just a hatred for teenagers that fuels the adults in these movies, which is wild. We're introduced to Shiori Kitano, who is the daughter of Kitano Sensei from the last movie, and the one that he was like constantly calling on the phone, trying to talk to and have a relationship with. But she wasn't having it because she was like, fuck you, old man, I don't fuck with you. She's typical teenager shit. She's rebellious. She's got an attitude. She's got a permanent frown on her face. And so we get introduced to her, and it's really sad because she's like, apparently, one, this is a world that knows about the games. So she knows that her dad died as a result of the games. She has the painting that he did with all of the dead kids and then a girl in the center. And at first she thought it was her, and that's why she kept it, only to realize later it wasn't her. It was some girl that he had a weird relationship with. I'm not sure where her mother is in all of this. We get weird flashbacks. Again, if you recall what I said about the last movie, Kitano looks like he's been a villain forever. He does not look like someone that you should be sympathizing with, no matter what the writing tries to make you do. He looks like he's been a villain forever. So in these flashbacks between Shiori and her dad, he like comes in to like give her a gift. And he's like, it's your birthday, so it's your birthday gift. And then she's like, you stupid, my birthday was yesterday. And he was like, no, it wasn't. And she was like, yes, it was. I hate you. Get out of my room. And then he basically tells her, like, he does a thing where he's like, I should just do this then. Where he's like trying to manipulate her or make her feel bad. Like, since you hate me so much, I should just end myself. And she's like, whatever, get out. Like, I was like, but again, Kitano, like everything about that man, he was born to be a villain. If they wanted someone that we could kind of sympathize with, they chose the wrong actor. But anyway, so Shiori becomes, she ends up in a school that is for delinquents where kids kind of get thrown away. There are a bunch of kids in here who are orphans too. So the school is like children who've been thrown away by society. So it's like delinquent kids, but it's also orphan kids who've lost their parents and lost their families as well. And nobody cares enough about them, so they get thrown into the school. So it's a mix. And she becomes obsessed with the Battle Royale, and she wants to get involved with one so that she can understand, I guess, what her dad was going through. It's her only way to connect with him at this point, is to get involved in these death games, which is wild. But, I'll take it. I'll take, my dad died because of these games, so now I want to go into the games. I'll take it. I'll take it. Take what you can get from this one. You're also introduced to a lot of the other kids. These kids actually look like delinquents. These kids got blonde hair, red hair, they got crazy hairstyles, they speak very aggressive Japanese, they act very aggressively. They are stereotypical delinquents. Unlike the first group of kids in Battle Royale 1, where they all look like normal junior high school kids that was just thrown into that situation because adults is adulting. But yeah, these kids actually look like kids who are delinquents. And so they get thrown on the bus, they're all knocked out. They start to wake up a little bit earlier and they can see all of the journalists who are outside the boat to the island where they are like trying to take pictures and they're trying to get pictures of the kids who've been chosen for this battle royale. So all the kids start to wake up, they're banging on the windows and all the journalists are taking pictures and they're trying to note all the kids that they can see and all of that. Like it's a huge spectacle at this point. They're brought into this small room. And this is where the world building gets weird again, where it feels like they're trying to bring in like real elements while also being completely ridiculous and out of line. Their teacher is Riki Takeuchi. Takeuchi? I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing that. But so they get brought into this room where there are guards all around, like a big cage, pointing guns at them. And in the middle is Takeuchi sensei. And he starts like writing on a chalkboard a whole bunch of names of countries. And it's countries like Sudan, Afghanistan, like all of these like war torn countries where he calls out, that there's this bigger thing of like, it's weird. It's weird. He goes on this huge monologue about violence and about war and about terrorism and all of that. And he talks about how, Japan is now no different because of all of the terrorism that's been going on. And it brings you into why I brought up Shuya and Noriko. So Shuya, who survived the last movie, has now become a leader of a terrorist organization called Wild 7. And Wild 7 literally just like bombs buildings. And you see in the beginning, like all of the tallest buildings in Japan just being bombed to the ground. And obviously that hurts innocent people. And his reasoning for doing it is to get back at all the adults who were supporting the BR Act and making kids fight to their deaths in the Battle Royale games. So like he's been gathering kids who were forced to fight in those games and survived and making them a part of his terrorist group to attack adults, because the war at this point is against adults because they're the ones who put them through all of the hell. But obviously all of their attacks don't just kill adults, they kill adults and children. But a lot of them, I mean, if you're bombing an office building, most of the people who are going to die in that bombing are adults. So he's targeting it pretty appropriately. But we do learn that Takeuchi's daughter died in one of the office buildings that were bombed. I guess it fell on her or something, and she was a casualty. And there were other kids who were casualties of these, huge skyscraper buildings being bombed to the ground. This time, the game is going to be different. Instead of them doing a normal battle royale, which at this point, all the kids in this delinquent class know exactly what battle royale is. They know exactly how it goes. They have strong feelings about it and about adults who push them into these situations, and they don't want to participate, and they're angry that they were tricked onto going on a field trip and they were actually brought here. So they know what it is at this point. The kids are aware of what's going on, and it's probably due to Shuya and his terrorism. But what Takeuchi tells them is, this time, instead of doing a game where you guys are forced to kill each other to survive, what we're going to do is we are going to give y'all weapons and put you in camo and send you to the island to kill Shuya and his people. He hates teenagers so much that instead of sending the military to deal with this terrorist group of teenagers, he said, why don't we let the kids fight each other? So he's taking these kids, putting the collars on them, threatening them with death, and then saying, if y'all don't kill Shuya, all of y'all are gonna die. And then to make it worse, I guess they learned from the last movie being so long because they had way too many kids involved. To make it worse, whoever your number counterpart is, so say there's, 20 girls, 20 boys. If you're girl number 8 and you die, boy number 8 will also be killed by the collar. So you have to keep your number counterpart alive, or else you also will die. Why does that make sense? I don't know. I don't really think they needed to force the kids to care about who lives and dies or want to protect each other, because as you go throughout the movie, you see that they all know each other, they care about each other, they want to work together to keep each other alive. So forcing this part of if the other one dies, you die just seems like another way to like whittle down the numbers faster. So originally the kids do try to like talk each other into not doing it, but then, start dying. So then they're like, the kids get scared. They're like, well, I don't want to die, so I'm just going to do it. And even before they even start, like a couple kids die, and that's the way that they introduce the rule of, hey, this one kid acted up, we killed him, and now you have to die because you were his counterpart. So they put them on boats, and it's giving very much Saving Private Ryan. You see them on the boats going across the water. They don't even make it to the island before they start getting shot at by Shuya and his people, and they're dying, and then others are dying because their counterpart died. They can't even, the boats they have like an auto thing on it, because like they can't even steer the boats. And there's a lot to be said here about like how children are the casualties of war, how children are forced to become child soldiers by the adults around them so that they can have more bodies, the trauma that they get from it. Like they don't know how to wield these guns. They don't know how to maneuver themselves the way like a well-trained army or militia would. And they're just being sent because the adults don't want to have any more casualties. They don't want any more adults to die, so they're going to send the kids to die, and it's really messed up. So I do understand what they're doing in that area in terms of like the allegories of like how war impacts children. And then as they make their way across the island up into the building, more and more of them die. Some of them freak out and they just get frozen in place and they get shot down. And it creates a lot of hostility towards Shuya, because previously it was like, we don't give a fuck, he's killing adults. But now Shuya and his people are killing them. And one of the first things I thought about was like, I think it's real interesting that all of y'all are wearing camo and you have these big helmets on, to where he cannot tell the difference between you and an adult soldier. Also a really good allegory for how we dehumanize our opponents. We don't want to see them as people. We just see them as people that we have to kill. Like they're just the enemy. So from their perspective, Shuya is the enemy. From Shuya's perspective, they're the enemy. And so they want to kill each other. Rightfully so. It makes perfect sense to me. And so the further they get up, the more people they lose trying to make their way into the building where Shuya and his people are hiding out. And they finally get in. But once they get inside, the terrorists start to notice like, oh, those are kids. They're kids with the necklaces on. They are being forced to be here. Our whole job for this organization is that we are trying to save people who were once forced to do battle royales, and this must be a new version of it where they have forced kids to come after us. So Shuya, as the leader, tells them to launch this EMB thingy that they have that is going to scramble all of the satellites and like radio waves and everything. And it was supposed to be for when they escaped. But once he realizes that there are kids down there who have those necklaces on and they could all be killed, he decides to detonate it so that the servers can go down, so that they can remove the collars from the kids that are down there. And of course, there's a lot of distrust. There's a lot of anger. Where Shiori comes in at this, I know I mentioned her a second. She was just the first person of the entire group to be like, yep, this is what we're doing. I'm going to kill Shuya because he killed my dad. And she doesn't really tell anybody else, but you know that that's her motivation. I even forget who her guy counterpart is, because she kind of moves like a well-trained military person all of a sudden. It's really interesting because we don't see anything of her training to kill anyone. But she's just like, she's taking it all in stride. She's super serious. She might as well be the leader of the group. And a lot of them, of course, don't trust Shuya and their people because they were just killing them 5 seconds ago. Now let me talk about Shuya for a second, because he's supposed to have, a whole character arc here. Shuya's whole thing is after he and Noriko escaped the battle royale, they had to leave Japan because everyone was looking for them. And at this point, Japan is this totalitarian government that is will stop at nothing to kill whoever they want to kill. So they leave Japan and they go to Afghanistan. That don't make no sense to me. If they had left Japan and went to Korea, they went to China, they went to Australia, like all that. They went to a war-torn Middle East for what reason? I don't know. But somehow they went there, and Shuya ends up fighting in the middle of the war that they're having there. And he learns a lot from these Afghani people who also speak Japanese for no reason, and they sacrifice their lives for him. Like they really come to, like, you know, be Shuya's new family. He learns how to use, you know, all the different types of like AKs and assault rifles and stuff like that. And what Noriko does in that time, I don't know. But Shuya takes everything that he learns from fighting a war in Afghanistan that he didn't need to fight, but somehow he ended up fighting, to build his terrorist group Wild 7 and get the guns that they need to fight back against the totalitarian government and all the bombs and everything. So he trains up all of these other kids who are a victim of the BR Act, and they become a terrorist group, and somehow they end up on the island where they are, like, you know, holding out against the military that's trying to kill them. Shuya's whole character, he's supposed to be this like hardened guy who's like, he's been through so much, he's seen war, and he's so much more serious now. Before he was kind of like bumbling around. It kind of reminds me of what they tried to do with Gi-hun in Squid Game, where Gi-hun starts out as like this optimistic goofball trying to make money, and then in the next season he's like super serious and like brooding all the time. But it don't really work for Shuya, because even though they changed his hair color and made him look a little messy, he still got a baby face. He still look like a baby to me. Like, and I mean, I know he's not an adult yet in this thing, but it's like he just look like a baby to me. And so he's trying to be all mysterious, and it's funny because all of his monologues don't sound like he's saying anything. Like, it sounds like he's saying things that sound serious, like he's had this great awakening of what the world really is like, but he ain't really saying nothing. And even the new kids that come in, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or not, but they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why were you shooting us? The real question is, why was you shooting and killing us? And now you want to help us. But also, Shuya, why are you, as y'all are actively in the middle of a shootout, as you think that, you know, you're being attacked by the army, why are you sitting in the middle of a room surrounded by candles with your AK-47 next to you? Why is you posing? Because that's really like he's posing. We learn later that he lights a candle for everybody who dies, which, okay, great. That's nice. That's incredibly dangerous to light a candle for every single person, but that's what he's doing. But like, they ask him like real direct questions, and he answers with monologues about war and the world and all of that. And did nobody ask you about all that, sir? And he does do his little videos where they, like, you know, they hack into whatever news feed, and he does videos where he talks about like their goals to like stop the BR Act and take back control. Adults can't keep doing this to children, like all of those things, and that's fine and dandy. He didn't need to do 15 other monologues. Like, it's like you ask that man what he want to eat today, and he's gonna give you a monologue about how kids in Afghanistan can't eat. Like, are you hungry or not? That's my thing. I felt he was kind of doing too much, but I can understand with the poor writing that actor was doing the best he could, but it was too much. Because nobody answers questions. Like, if they had got the man and said, hey, I'm sorry that we were shooting y'all. We didn't know that it was you. We thought it was the adults that were coming after us. We are here to help you. This is our goal. We're trying to stop the BR Act, and we're going to make sure that you guys are taken care of and that you get home to your families. And if you don't have family, we're going to make sure you get off this island alive. That's all you had to say. See how fast I said that? That's all you had to say. There's a lady there with a baby. I don't really know why she's there with a baby, if not to just do another allegory for war and how people, you know, how people have to, like, you know, raise children in a world like this and an environment like this. Like, Like, I get the symbolism of it. I don't get why she's there. And there are some other really young kids, which just goes to show like they're going younger and younger when it comes to the BR Act, and they don't care about how young these kids are because, some of them are orphans, and some of them apparently their parents or guardians sign their lives away. And then there's like this whole thing with Shiori where she's like kind of torn because she's like, I'm supposed to be killing Shuya, but then I kind of understand what he's going through. I kind of understand what he's talking about, and he did help me by taking the collar off. They all end up working together. They find a tunnel where they can get all of the innocent people, the young kids, the lady with the baby, and anybody who doesn't want to fight. He gives them the out. If you do not want to fight, you can go through this tunnel. We'll make sure you get back to the mainland safely, which is something that the adults don't give. The adults don't give them any choice about whether or not they can fight. They just force them to fight. So Shuya being like, I'm going to give you the choice. You can stay here and fight, or you can go, and we will give up our lives, knowing they're like, we're going to die over here to make sure you guys who don't want to fight get the choice to go back to the mainland. Editing Minu here, I just want to clarify something real quick. So not only is Wild 7 a terrorist organization in Japan, they're actually recognized internationally, and their attacks have affected the U.S. military as well. So they are an enemy of Japan and the U.S. And at this point in the story, the U.S. bombs the island, which is not what Japan was expecting, which is not what Takeuchi sensei wanted. But then the prime minister said that they are under pressure from the U.S. to kill Shuya as quickly as possible. And if they cannot complete things within a certain time frame, then the Japanese military will bomb the island as well. Takeuchi sensei is not happy about this, revealing that he also has a collar on. And I'm guessing that his collar is dependent on Shuya dying. I don't understand why a bomb wouldn't help that, but somehow the bomb is overkill. It's not what Takeuchi sensei wanted. And the prime minister said, I don't care. Get it done. Bombing the island, which ends up killing a bunch of innocent kids that are with them. And there's this one kid who wants to stay, but Shuya tells him to like go and protect the ones who are trying to flee, because that's what he should do, while also getting to flee, because everybody who stays understands that they are going to die when the next wave of soldiers comes after them. Now, Takeuchi sensei is weird because he reveals in an argument with the prime minister that he has a collar on him. And I don't exactly know the background from watching the movie of what that fully means. What I'm going to guess it means is if he doesn't complete his job of killing Shuya, he also will die. And that's why he doesn't care about doing the same thing to all of these other kids, because at the end of the day, Shuya needs to die or he will die. And he wants Shuya to die because his daughter died as a result of one of his bombings. So like that's his motivation. I don't know why that means he gives a fuck if the island is bombed versus them shooting everybody and killing them. I don't know why it matters which way things go. Or maybe he just has a time limit of when he can do it. And if Shuya somehow survives the bombing, it's going to take them too long to dig through the rubble and he may end up dying anyway. I don't know. I don't know why he decides to be mad at them bombing the island. And once the prime minister realizes that he also has a collar on him, he's like, I don't give a fuck about you either. Bye. He's like, well, since you have a collar on, you don't really have any freedom. So I'm going to exercise my power as the prime minister to send in those soldiers to finish the job. In addition to some of the soldiers whose names we don't fully know, Shuya stays behind. Shiori stays behind to fight with Shuya. And Takuma. Takuma is another main character. I didn't talk about him that much because he's not part of, he wasn't part of one. Shuya and Shiori were a part of one and now they're in two. He's a main character of two because you do get flashbacks of his mom, who seems to have money, dumping him at the school and being like, this is for the best. And him having a lot of hatred inside of him for being abandoned by his mother. And also even more hatred now that she not only abandoned him at that delinquent school, but signed away his life so that he could be a child soldier against another child soldier. It's, so he has all of that in him. And originally he does start to leave with the other group in the tunnel, but then he decides that he wants to go back and fight because he feels moved by what Shuya is doing. and he wants to go be a part of something bigger. Again, children who don't seem to have a set future in front of them, who are, thrown away by society, feeling like the only way for them to have a better life or a chance at some sort of fulfillment, to go into something like war and get involved become a child soldier, basically. So I get that he feels moved to do this and he feels compelled to do this. And I do like the allegories and the symbolism that are associated with that. Him and another couple guys decide to go back as well, and they end up dying in the shootout. Shiori ends up dying shortly after telling Shuya that she's Kitano's daughter. Takeuchi shows up, and for some reason he has a change of heart. I don't know why, because it's established in the beginning that he wants Shuya dead because Shuya is responsible for the terrorist attack that killed his daughter. So I don't know why he has a change of heart. Maybe because he sees how hard they fought, or maybe he saw the recording that Shuya put out. I'm not fully sure. He does seem to be moved by the fact that while the kids were on the bus before they were knocked out, they passed around a football that said friends, and everybody signed the football. It ended up covered in blood after the kid holding it neck got ripped open. And so Takeuchi sensei held on to it. So when he confronts them in the building, he's still holding on to that football with everybody's names on it. And he tells them to go and run and keep fighting or whatever. And then his thing bleeps and then he dies. And then there's this shot where after Shiori dies, they run up the stairs to a never-ending onslaught of soldiers that are coming after them. They're running out of bullets and everything. The screen kind of goes white, so you don't see what happens or how they get off the island. You end up in, I guess, Afghanistan again, because it's looking kind of rocky, looking kind of deserty. And Shuya and Takuma survived somehow, and they meet Noriko again. The other kids that survived, they all come together. How y'all got off Japan? How did y'all... Because if the kids went through the tunnel to get back to mainland Japan, how was they getting these flights? If it's a totalitarian government who has spies everywhere, soldiers everywhere, how are they getting these flights to Afghanistan? I don't understand. Because Japan is an island. So, are they taking boats and then just getting cars with what money? Because they don't have jobs. Who's funding this terrorist organization? I just thought about, who's funding this? How you get all them assault rifles? Don't you got to pay for that? And then you got them presumably from Afghanistan and traveled all the way to Japan to do more. You got EMBs and bombs and all this technology to undo the collars that have been put on the kids. Where you get all of that? I mean, I can believe that you learned how to build a bomb, and so you just took stuff and you built a bomb in Japan. But ain't no way you assembled AK-47s by yourself, by some shit that you found on the island. There's no way. You have to bring that in. Maybe they stole it from soldiers. I don't really understand. But it's just really, really weird, and the logistics of it don't make any sense. The logistics of Shuya and Takuma surviving don't make any sense, because they barely had any ammo left, and they were running out to an area that was literally surrounded on all sides by soldiers, and the soldiers just never stopped coming. They were like a swarm of roaches. They just never stopped coming. And I just don't understand how they survived that, especially given that the building blew up, meaning the tunnel that the kids used to get out also was full of fire. They couldn't have followed behind them. Even if they were to steal one of the soldiers' boats, when they have been shot, I don't understand the logistics of how they're hopping over to these other places. And I want to correct something that what I was saying in the other video. I did feel like there was a lot of areas where I was missing a lot of story. I realized that there's a book that I probably, and maybe if I read the book, I will get more of the background stories, with all the characters that will fill in some of these holes, because I really need to understand what Kitano and Noriko's relationship were. But yeah, so overall, that was the story of Battle Royale 2 Requiem. I understood the symbolism and the allegories of these two movies. What I don't understand is the world building. There's a lot of things happening in these movies that is illogical and makes no sense. How is it that every year 42 kids are dying. 41 kids are dying in these battle royales, and I'm assuming this is a once a year thing. It could happen more frequently for all I know. But enough of them have happened between the first movie and the second movie that people know about it, and that Shuya has an entire militia worth of kids who have been impacted by it, whether they survived it or they have been impacted by it in a different way. Like, he has an entire militia of these kids. So enough of these have gone on for kids to know what's going on and to join up with a terrorist group to attack adults. So every year, 41 parents are signing away their kids' lives. And if they're not parents, then it's whoever are guardians of these orphan kids who are orphaned as a result of the terrorist attacks against adults. It makes no sense logically. Now, what would make sense to me if they had it where this totalitarian government was randomly choosing groups of kids. They were randomly choosing a school and then randomly choosing a class to then put them through the games, and the parents were against it or didn't know about it. That would make more sense to me. But if parents are getting consent forms, talking about I consent to my son or daughter dying, I don't understand. There's nothing, even if you had some kids that was really bad, like stabbing the teacher, that's wild, that's crazy. How many kids out there was doing that level of violence for their parents or the state to be like, yeah, them, that classroom? Like, was there an epidemic of stabbings where teenagers were just stabbing people everywhere and they were like, we got to do something we got to get these stabby kids off the streets? Like, I just really, really don't understand. Other games that we see that have made international fame, like Squid Game, that one makes sense because those are all adults. So the adults are signing their own consent forms to put themselves through the death games in the hopes of making money. And the games where the Japanese death game movies like Jinro Game or Liar Game or Friend Game and thing like that, a lot of those situations don't pull in how the parents feel. It's always contained into these teenagers just wake up in a room or they wake up in a building and they have a collar on them, and then you have to do so many games or you die. So they don't really bring in like the parental part of it, because if you do, it falls apart so easily, especially in some of those games like what was it? As the Gods Will, I think was the name of that one, where it seems like the whole of Japan is watching these games play out. You don't pull in the parental consent piece because that just throws it all the way off. The logic behind, getting the group of kids to fight another group of kids when that group of kids has AK-47s and have been taking down adult soldiers also makes no sense, because if they're killing adult soldiers, I don't know what untrained teenagers are going to do better. Like, untrained teenagers are not going to get to a target that has been knocking back wave after wave of adult soldiers. That makes no sense. And the acting in 2 is even more over the top than 1, because Takeuchi sensei was just screaming all the time. He was screaming using super rough, aggressive Japanese. His acting was like on 10, and not on 10 in a good way. I mean, on 10, like over the top. He was doing a lot. And I was like, you don't need to do all of that, sir. But I think that him being a good opposite to Kitano, where Kitano is like very quiet, and then you have Takeuchi who's like he's just like screaming and all gruff and stuff. I think it was fun. But yeah, a lot of the world building in these 2 movies makes no sense. But, and I'm also too, I'm like, I'm 2025 watching this movie that's like 25 years older at this point. Like, I understand that I'm looking backwards, and I'm coming from a perspective of where I've seen this done so much better. But you always got to give a shout out to the ones who did it first. Like, I have read a good amount of stories where the writing was shit, but the plot itself was really good, and I just kept soldiering through. And I feel like that's what I did with Battle Royale and other death games. The writing wasn't good, but I soldiered through it because the plot, like the story, like that they were trying to tell, the idea behind it of like these kids being forced to do death games, that is really, really interesting. It's interesting to watch. And that's why Japan keeps doing it. That's why other countries have made movies and shows about it too. Korea's done movies and shows. The US has done movies and shows surrounding these death games. Some of them being childish death games. Like, the premise of it is so interesting that you can appreciate it even if the acting is over the top, even if the writing isn't that good, even if the dialogue is shit in a lot of areas. The story itself is really good, and I'm happy that I finally got the opportunity to watch it as it was intended. I would have been pissed if I only watched the dub version because the English dub is terrible. But I'm glad that I was able to find it with the Japanese original audio in English subtitles because it definitely made it way more enjoyable. So I'm gonna end this now. I've been talking for too long. What do you guys think about Battle Royale 2 Requiem? Let me know in the comments. And I will see y'all in the next video. Bye.